Hey everyone, welcome to this stream. Today I want to talk about something very interesting. I love it, at least it's interesting to me, and I hope that you will learn from it too. And that is simply Nginx and Certbot. Yesterday, I hope you liked what we discussed. And in day 79, I'm going to, talk about this even more. Today, I've had instability in my internet and electricity. So in case you see me dropping on and off, please let me know in the chat and please be patient with me. But let's go on. So I'm going to go to the whiteboard, okay? Talk about a few issues because I always like understanding a concept, explaining a concept first of all, then getting into the actual practical bit, okay? To understand how things work. In the age of AI, you can generate anything you want, okay? But what is key is understanding a concept and applying it to your business needs, okay? Because depending on the business, issues are actually different, okay? The way you implement things changes from time to time. So let's do briefly some whiteboarding, and then I'm going to go in depth what Nginx and Certbot and how to get the free SSL. Now, what problem does Nginx solve? At least for this project, okay? And of course, I'm going to explain to you what Nginx is, okay? Just be a little bit patient with me. I'm going to explain to you what Nginx is. But first of all, we need to understand what problem Nginx solves, then I'll tell you what Nginx is, okay? Yesterday in the setup, okay, when after successful deployment, okay, from the browser, someone would type something like this, okay. Let me pick a different color. So assuming we had a browser, okay, we have our browser. Like in my case, I am using Chrome, okay. So you have your browser. Looks like I need to go back to school to spell browser. So we have browser, okay, and then from the browser, someone accesses HTTP. After that, okay, it will be 2 forward slashes, then the IP address of the EC2 instance. And in this case, it's the public IP address, which will be something like 16.55. Okay, let me make this longer to make it clear that they are forward slashes. So 16.55.62.97, okay, full colon port 8000. Okay, this is how we have set up in Terraform, okay, at least as far as yesterday. When a person hits this in the browser, then this request is sent to FastAPI, okay, our FastAPI application, which has a number of layers, okay, and this is, of course, Dockerized, okay, from our Docker setup. This is how the setup looks like at the moment. Okay, I need to understand this properly. But now, when we have this setup, we have 3 problems that come along with it. We have 3 problems, and I want you to understand the problems. 3 problems. The first problem, okay, is that, okay, there is no HTTPS. No HTTPS. This is very bad, okay? Like you see, it starts with HTTP. There's no HTTPS. And browsers block mixed content. Remember, the front end has HTTPS on it. Let me show you. Okay. See, if you go to arrowboundventures.com, arrowboundventures.com, Are you seeing this? The front end, if I go to the front end here, are you seeing it is HTTPS? It is being served via HTTPS. Okay, so when Vercel is serving our front end from HTTPS, and API calls are made to a backend having HTTP, those calls will be rejected. Again, browsers block mixed content. What is the mixed content? Front end being served on HTTPS, the backend being served on HTTP. Vercel serves our front end over HTTPS. So API calls to plain HTTP get rejected. That is the first issue. Okay. And I hope you understand that. Okay. The next challenge, which comes with the setup, okay, is that the URL is of course ugly. Okay. This may not be an issue to you, but of course it would be ugly, like to maybe if you share it with the users, okay? Because users see a raw IP, okay? They see a raw IP, and also they see the port number, okay? For us developers, this might be okay, okay? But we don't want that to happen, okay? We want users to see something nice, okay? Not 16155 627, okay? It could be anything, okay? Then the port, we don't want this, okay? We want them to see something nice, maybe like API dot, okay, the domain, like you're going to see, this is already actually set up, the domain.com. This is better than what we have up here, okay? The other problem is that our server, because of this setup up here, is that it has been directly exposed, okay? So next problem is direct exposure. The app server is facing the internet directly. One crash and we are done. Okay, that's the risk of of uh, of this. Okay. Now what I want to do is this. I want Nginx to sit in front of the app. This is going to be the API, okay, or the app, the application, or the backend rather. In fact, let me do that. Rename it to backend. So we have our backend here. Okay. And then when a user makes a request, okay, this is the user. That request goes to Nginx. So Nginx is going to sit in front of the backend. Okay. This is how it is. Okay. And remember, this backend, okay, is running, okay, in a Docker container. Okay. And this Docker container is running on a virtual machine, okay, which is the EC2 instance, okay, which has firewalls and other things, okay. So it now brings the question, what is Nginx? What is Nginx? I've told you the problems that that we have with the setup as of yesterday. So what is Nginx? Okay. I am going to use an analogy, which is very common, okay, to make you understand. Think of Nginx as a receptionist, okay? I need to put here a proper title saying, what is Nginx? Okay, so think of Nginx as a receptionist at a hotel. When guests walk into the lobby, okay, when a guest walks into the lobby of a restaurant or a hotel, they are received by receptionists. Okay, they are received by receptionists, and the receptionist is responsible for checking what the guest wants. Okay, then directs them to the correct room. In this case, the guests would be the users or the clients of our API, those who consume the API. Okay, and the lobby would be port 80. Okay, port 80 of the internet. Okay, which of course later will be mapped to port 443 of Nginx. Okay, this is the lobby. So when users make a request to port 80, okay, or port 443, okay, for HTTPS in this case, okay, you know what happens? The receptionist, okay, let me write it here. Receptionist in this case, okay, is Nginx. Nginx checks, okay, and directs those requests to the API application on port 8000. Okay, so the guests never need to know the room number, they just talk to the receptionist. In tech terms, Nginx is actually what is called a reverse proxy. In tech terms, okay, we call Nginx a reverse proxy. What is a reverse proxy? It is simply a tool which receives requests from the internet, okay, and forwards them to your actual application. Like I showed you in this diagram, okay? It receives requests from the internet and forwards them to our actual application. That is what a reverse proxy does. So if you asked what is a reverse proxy, you now know what it is. A tool which receives requests from the internet and forwards them to your application. Okay? Please understand that. Okay? Please understand that. And earlier on, maybe something which I had skipped and I want to actually emphasize is the port 443. Okay. Take note that port 443 is the port used for HTTPS. Where is that part? Here. Okay. 80 is just the default port for HTTP. Okay. 443 is for HTTPS. So when users send a request to our HTTPS application, okay, then Nginx picks that request and sends it to our application. And that is the only way you should be able to do it. There is no other way. Okay. So, and this Nginx actually can be used for not as a reverse proxy only, but we can set it up to work as a load balancer. Okay. It can work as a load balancer. So let's move on. And I'm going to show you all these things, how they play out and how they work. Okay. So the goal is that Nginx handles the public facing things, okay, like SSL, the domain name, security, and the app handles only the business logic. To do that, we need to write configuration. Okay, this configuration has already been written, and I'm going to explain to you line by line. If you have any question, please drop it in the chat. I'm going to explain. Okay, and I'm going to push this code to GitHub so that you can copy it, apply it to your project. Like I always tell you, make this project your own. Okay, own this project. Okay, and make as many changes as you can. That's how you're going to learn. Now, when I go to look at this code, yesterday we dealt with Docker. Okay, I stopped here. But now, if you look at step 6 here, okay, it says set up Nginx Revox. Wow, what am I saying? I'm about to bite my tongue. It says set up Nginx Reverse Proxy plus SSL. Says echo setting up Nginx Reverse Proxy. Okay, simply prints a message. Then it says install Nginx and Certbot if not present. So, like I explained to you yesterday, this is simply an if statement. In Bash, okay, this is how you declare an if statement, okay? But the if statement in Bash is the same as an if statement in any other programming language. So you have this command which simply checks that if Nginx is not there, okay, then we simply put a message saying we are now installing Nginx. We update, okay, the package repositories, and then say sudo install -y Nginx. Okay. And then fi simply means the end of the if statement. So this -y simply says yes to every prompt because there's no human in the server to say yes to the prompts. As simple as that. After that, the next one also checks if Certbot has been installed. If Certbot has not been installed, then we echo that we are installing Certbot. Okay. And then we say sudo apt-get install Certbot, okay, the core Certbot tool, and then the Python 3 Certbot Nginx. Okay. This is a Python Certbot Nginx is a Python tool, okay, wrap around Certbot and Nginx. Okay. So if they've been the next time you push your code to, I mean the first time you push your code to GitHub, this job will work, okay, and install Certbot and Nginx for the first time. Nginx is our reverse proxy, but Certbot is the tool that is going to give us SSL, okay? And I'm going to explain to you these things. So after the installation is done, so the second time, third time, fourth time, this will not run, okay? All right, let's move on. So it says, write Nginx config for API subdomain, okay? Now, I have a subdomain, okay, called api.airboundventures.com. I already bought airboundventures.com and I'm subdomaining the API part, okay? Maybe to show you, I don't know if it is still visible, okay? Yeah, this is it, okay? So this is Network Solutions where I bought the record, okay? So to enter the subdomain, first of all, to enter the domain, okay, I simply added here a record, okay? Then I say it refers to art. Then I put here the address of the credentials from Vercel, okay? The time to leave, I chose 15 minutes, okay? Gave it some time for it to propagate. That was the first time when I was doing for airboundventures.com. After that, for the subdomain, I still chose the type as a record, then refers to, I put other host, then I put API here, okay? Then here I put the address of the EC2 instance, the public IP, okay? Something like 16.43.12. that, okay? There's usually 4, okay? Numbers separated by periods. That is what I did to have the subdomain, okay? And that was it. That was enough. In fact, this one took very short time to propagate, about maybe 20 minutes or so. It was really fast. Okay, so I'll delete that. So using this command sudo t, okay, I am writing, okay, I'm going to explain to you all this structure, okay. So look at this. Nginx writes its configuration in under etc, okay. All Linux systems have this etc folder where configurations of several libraries are stored, okay. So in this case, under etc we have Nginx, okay, Nginx configuration. And under that Nginx configuration, we have the sites available directory also, okay. Then under it is now the configuration for API, like I've showed you how I configured it, .airboundventures.com. Okay, and that configuration is this. It starts from here. It's in this Nginx Conf. Okay, it comes all the way up to down here. Okay, Nginx Conf. That's the end. Okay, and I'm going to explain to you in fact, let me explain to you the folder structure of Nginx. Okay, how Nginx does its things. So just a moment. So let me get, this is how Nginx does its things. Okay, first of all, we have /etc. Okay, then Nginx. Okay, this is the location. When you install Nginx, you have this. Okay, then inside, okay, inside here, okay, here you have the nginx.conf. Okay, this is the main configuration. Okay, rarely edited. Okay, it's the main config for Nginx, and it's rarely edited. You rarely need to edit it. Okay, even in this case, I'm not going to touch it. Then after that, we have sites available. This is where we write the additional configuration for our sites. Okay, so our site configuration lives here. Okay, it's like a library. That's why you see in the code. Okay, if I show you, where is it? In the code, you see this Nginx sites available, then airboundventures.com, api.airboundventures.com. Okay, then after that, so under sites available here, we have api.airboundventures.com. airboundventures.com. Okay, so this is where the configuration will live. Then on the same level, there is what is called sites enabled. Sites enabled. Okay, let me write this properly. We have sites enabled. So sites enabled, okay, is where we have Symlinks. Okay, Symlink is a shortcut. Okay, so everything in site available, okay, for it to be now active, to be considered active, okay, must be in sites enabled. So this airbound ventures, okay, .com, okay, must have a shortcut, okay, or a symlink in sites enabled, and I'll show you how that is done. Okay, as simple as that. So what is going to happen is this: you write your configuration in sites available. Okay, so configuration is written in sites available. Then after writing your configuration in sites available, that config, okay, is then, I mean, a shortcut is created for that config, okay, in sites enabled. So you write your config in sites available, then you create a shortcut in sites enabled to activate them. Okay, so let's go back to the config. Okay, so let me look at the chart just to make sure. Everything is okay. Excuse me. Okay. All right. So yeah, what else? Let me now go. So in Nginx, we have what they call blocks. Okay. Configuration is written in blocks. Some of these blocks are called server blocks. So what you're seeing here, okay, on line 252 is called a server block. Okay. This is a server block. Okay. So when I see, this is a server block. So you say server, okay, let me do it up here. So you say server, put curly braces like that. Okay. So AI is trying to be smart. Let me remove it. Okay. So that's how you create a server block. Then you start now writing configuration. This one here says listen 80. Listen is a keyword, and 80 is simply the port. So port 80 is the standard HTTP port. So it says listen to port 80. Okay. And then server name api.airbornevengeance.com simply means if you hit someone else's, if you hit the server's IP directly, okay, Nginx should ignore it. Okay. The goal here is like only respond if the request is for this domain. That's the goal. Okay. So the server name is api.airbornevengeance.com, which simply means respond if the request is for this domain at this port. Okay. We are going to have port 443 also for HTTPS, but that will be handled by Certbot. Okay. Certbot will automatically add port 443 for HTTPS later. I'll show you. Okay. Then after that, we have a location. Okay. A location block. Okay. This location block starts with the keyword location. So server, listen, server name, location are all Nginx keywords. All Nginx keywords. Then say location /. So / means for any URL path, okay, do the following. So / means anything. So for any URL path, do the following. Okay. So let us see what we're going to do. The first thing is saying proxy path. So proxy path is the keyword. Proxy path, HTTP, localhost. This address for localhost, port 8000. Okay. It is saying forward the request to this address. Remember, this address is now of our FastAPI application running in a Docker container on the EC2 machine. So it is saying forward the request to the FastAPI application. Okay. 12007 is localhost, meaning on the same machine, on this same machine on port 80. That is where you're going to forward the request. Proxy set header is simply a keyword for setting a header. Okay. And headers have key value pairs. So the key, this is host, and the actual value is $host. Okay. So why do we do this? Okay. It's because we are doing it to pass along the original request. Okay. The original request info, so that the FastAPI application knows who's making the request. The goal is to pass along the original request so that the app knows who's actually making the request. And the request has some information like the host. Okay, so we're keeping the host. Okay, the same thing here. Proxy set header. It's a header called X real IP. We are telling FastAPI, okay, the user's real IP address. Okay, so host, we're telling FastAPI the domain that was requested. We are telling FastAPI here on line 259 the real user's IP address. Okay, so to get the user's IP address, you simply get the value of it in a variable called remote_addr. Okay, so the next one is proxy set header. The header is called x forwarded for. Its value is found in proxy add x forwarded for. As simple as that. What does it mean? It simply passes the full chain of IP addresses if there are multiple proxies. Then proxy set header, setting another header. This header is called x forwarded proto. Okay, and this value is $scheme. Okay, what is the scheme? Okay, it simply tells FastAPI if the original request was HTTP or HTTPS. That's what the scheme is all about. HTTP or HTTPS. Then proxy read timeout 300 milliseconds. We're simply saying wait up to 300 milliseconds for a response. Then proxy connect timeout 75 milliseconds simply says wait up to 75 seconds to connect. Okay. So why do these proxy headers matter? Each of these proxy set headers matter because without these headers, our first API app would see, for example, for host, they would see this, okay? They would see 127.0.0.0.1 for the host, okay? And the protocol, they will receive HTTP because you have your HTTP. You wouldn't receive HTTPS. That's the problem, okay? So it would think the request has come from Nginx, which is the truth, but we want it to actually get the original request, okay? Because remember, the request comes from the client, then to Nginx, then Nginx sends to the FastAPI application. If we don't put the headers, okay, then FastAPI will get a request as it will get request data that represents Nginx as the rightful sender of that request. And yet we know that Nginx is not the rightful sender of our request. So proxy set header maintains the data from our client. In this case, it's the host, their IP address, okay, the full chain of the IPs and the scheme to our FastAPI application via proxy pass. Okay, this is important because our cause middleware, logging middleware, rate limiting middleware all depend on knowing the real client info. Without the real client info, they will struggle. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Now, after that, at the end, okay, here we have a few things that happen. Okay, the first one here, okay, what you're seeing, sudo ln, okay, sf, okay, is now doing the symlink, creating the symlink. Remember, I told you the symlink is from sites available, okay, to sites enabled. Don't forget that, okay? So we're creating a shortcut from sites available api.airboundventures.com to etc Nginx sites enabled. So when you create a shortcut, okay, of what you have of your configuration in sites available, in sites enabled, it's when you now it's called activating. Okay, it's called activating. So how do you do that? Use the ln. The ln command in Linux creates a shortcut. Okay, and what is called a symlink. Okay, so symlink shortcut is the same thing. Excuse me. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to you. Okay. Then after that, sudo rm, okay, rm simply deletes, okay, the default sites enabled, the default config that is installed when you, that is put when you install Nginx. Then the next one is to test and reload, okay? So to test Nginx, you say Nginx minus T, okay? So Nginx minus T tests your configuration. If the configuration is okay, it passes. But if it fails, if your config has errors, it fails. Lucky enough, this config has nothing. If you copy exactly what I have, it has no error. It's passing, okay? Then after that, what we do, we now say sudo systemctl reload nginx. It applies the new config without downtime, okay? That's the good thing of saying sudo systemctl reload nginx. It reloads without downtime. Okay, very, very good. Okay, so after that, we now have Certbot. Okay, again, Certbot is a free tool from Let's Encrypt. Okay, if I can show you in the browser, Let's Encrypt is a company. Let's Encrypt. Okay, so if you can donate to this company, I would encourage you to do. Okay, so it's a company that creates that Certbot tool. Okay, so we echo saying attempting SSL certificate, okay? Then we say sudo certbot minus minus nginx. Like I've told you, Certbot is a free tool from Let's Encrypt that proves that you own the domain. First of all, it proves that you own a domain. Okay. How does it prove it? I see this part which says -d API airboundventures.com. Okay. It proves that I own the domain by doing this. Okay. So make sure you actually have set up your domain and it has propagated. Okay. Otherwise, it will fail. If it fails, okay, and your propagation, your DNS propagation for your domain or subdomain works later, then you can rerun the GitHub job. That is very, very okay. Okay, so don't worry if it fails. So number one, like I told you, it is free. It first of all proves that we own the domain, okay, by placing a challenge, okay, what they call a challenge file, placing a challenge file on port 80. After that, it gets a free SSL certificate and automatically modifies our Nginx config to add HTTPS. Now repeat, it proves that I own this domain, okay, by placing a challenge file on port 80. It then gets a free SSL certificate and automatically modifies this configuration here, okay, of Nginx to add HTTPS, okay. So after Certbot runs, okay, here in this config, we shall have stuff like listen, okay, listen 443, okay, SSL, okay, like that, SSL. Then it will have config like SSL certificate. Let me hit tab, okay. I think this config, it will have the location of the SSL certificate, okay. Then it will have the certificate key, okay. You get, and it will have auto redirect, okay, to redirect from HTTP to HTTPS, okay. I challenge you to go into your EC2 server, okay, and see the configuration which will be added, okay. I just did this to explain to you further. So you say sudo certbot nginx -nginx -d. You supply the domain for which it's going to make the challenge, okay. After that, what do? You then say non-interactive, okay. Then agree to terms and conditions because you're not there to say yes or no. So you say agree to terms and conditions, okay, and want it to be non-interactive. The email, I put Certbot email, but this Certbot email is simply my mail from, okay, this one here, secrets.mail from on my application, okay. Then let's go back down. After that, you say the Certbot name, okay, is Airbound Ventures API, okay. This is cert name, the name of the certificate, okay. Then -- redirect, okay. Otherwise, if things fail, we echo a message saying warning, Certbot failed. DNS may not be pointing to this server yet. Nginx is still running on HTTP. So this can happen, okay? If this happens after your DNS has propagated, be patient. I had to actually be patient, give it around 15, 20 minutes, okay? For Nginx and Certbot for its catch, okay, to expire because it has some catch. So if its catch expires, then it will be able to pick up the new changes, okay. So from like 15 to 20 minutes, you can rerun your job. But the best thing would be to set up your DNS first, okay, on your domain provider. Then you come back to run this. Okay, at the end, we simply say sudo systemctl status nginx no pager, okay, just to see the status of Nginx, okay, because it's now, yeah, it's now practically the end. And when you have that, you'll be okay. Actually, I ran this and it's working, and I'm going to show you, okay. So if I go to my jobs here, okay, to the deploy job, let me expand this. So I'll scroll, okay. If I scroll, you see we had pulling, it pulled. stop containers, installed them. So I'm saying this, setting up Nginx Reverse Proxy. Says Nginx is running on port 80. And says attempting SSL certificate. Certificate is not yet due for renewal. Deploying certificate. Says successfully deployed certificate for api.airboundventures.com. Okay. Says congs, you have successfully enabled HTTPS on this address. Okay. And then yeah, goes on and on until the end. But if I go to that address, okay, you're going to see that my backend is now being served over HTTPS. And I can go to /API/v1. Okay, like that. In fact, you can check the health endpoint. Okay, and you can see, say status. You remember this health endpoint? If you've forgotten the health endpoint, please check it out. Okay, if you haven't seen it, go to the playlist and check it out. Okay, the status is healthy, the timestamp is there. Okay, the services database is ready, Redis is ready, Kafka producer is healthy. See, everything is healthy. Isn't that nice? If you want the docs, you can go to /API/docs. Okay, say it's not found. That should be at docs directly. Okay, so these are the document docs running. Okay, I see. How nice and awesome is it? Okay, so this is very, very nice. We have great success. I am very, very happy. Now, one more thing. After you've deployed the backend, don't forget to go to to your front end, okay? And to your secret, actually not the front end, to the secret, yeah, the front end update, okay? Of course, I'm going to have calls, okay, which will, if you try to access this, it will not work for you, okay, because I'm going to have calls and limitations, okay. So you can see the backend is now up and running. So now there are two configs to update, okay. There is the public, I mean, not the API URL for the front end that must be updated. Don't forget to do that. Then there is also the cause, okay, on the backend, and I think allowed hosts, something like that, okay. But check your environment variables always to know what you need to update after every successful deployment. So yeah, this is it. I'm very, very happy. This has been great success. And yeah, I'm relieved. Yeah, at least I have something that I can show that I studied something for 31 days and built it for over maybe 150 days or so, 5 months. Okay, is almost 150 days. So this has been very, very nice. Yeah, proud of what we have built. I hope many of you make this project your own, and yeah, go even deeper with it. So thank you for learning, building with me. See you in the next video or stream.